Hey, good day, everybody. This is the Indian Boxer Ring exclusive, and my name is Ishwar, and our guest today is Lauri Travis of Hi Desert Boxers. Uh, Lauri Travis is also the brains behind Romeo and Beckham. Romeo, as you all know, is the top winning boxer in Canada, winning a lot of best in shows. So in our interview today, Lauri is going to talk about her background, on how she started with a breed, and also, answer share her perspectives about the different breeding principles. What is her formula for success, and a lot of different important details are in store for you. So for those ones that are tuning in now and who would be tuning in shortly. If you have any questions, please put them in your comments, and I'll make sure that I present them in front of Lauri. Just a bit of introduction about Lauri. Lauri Travis is the breeder behind Hi Desert Boxers. She's the owner of the Hi Desert Boxers kennel, and she's also a member of the American Boxer Club, the Oregon Boxer Club, and she also is a member of the Gradient Club of America and Willamette Valley Gradient Club. Lauri, welcome to Indian Boxer Ring. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me today. Hello, everyone.
So, Lauri, I know. Thanks for making time. It's early in the day for you. It's I think we're close to 7 a.m. in the morning for you. Thanks for making time for us to share your journey with the dogs, with dogs, and especially with boxers. For the benefit of viewers that are tuned in, could you share a little bit of how you got into the world of purebred dog breeding and showing?
Well, I actually started with Harlequin Great Danes back in the mid '80s, and I actually started in horses, and I showed horses, and then went to Great Danes and started showing them a bit. We purchased our first boxer in 2000, and we finished him quite quickly. And then it just kind of progressed from there. We actually, had bought a brindle bitch because we decided we liked them so well, the boxers so well, that we bought a brindle bitch to finish and show and possibly breed. But she, her health testing was not stellar. Mm-hmm. So we actually, she just was my pet for many years. And we bought another bitch from Charlie Bose out of Skidoo's Charlie's Angel. And we showed her. She finished very quickly at the regionals. And that's kind of where it all began. So we actually, we had fallen in love with her, and we bred her to Wendy and Jimmy Bettis's male boxer. And I produced my first best in show bitch out of that, Tori.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's evolved from there.
Right, and I think it does. It's not common for you to produce a best in show winning bitch with your first breeding, but I know you have some interesting details to share, and we're going to talk about all of that. My next question is about what you just stated. You started off with horses, moved on to Danes, and then you chose boxers. So starting with Danes, with dogs, with purebred Danes, was the transition into boxers an easy decision? Was there a comparison that you had made? Now, the second part of my question, Lauri, is, did you have any mentors, who helped you in your learning curve as a boxer breeder? And if you would like to, if you can think of one or two of those names, who influenced you the most, and how did they do that?
Well, in the Danes, I didn't really, I'm kind of one of those that just says, hey, let's just do it. My husband, the Great Danes were so big. He really wasn't, he was okay with them, but it wasn't his favorite. We got the first boxer we just fell in love with the personality, the size, and it just kind of blossomed from there. I can tell you, my mind opened up as far as confirmation when I got my second breed. I really, having two different, I really learned a ton. And I had a vision that when I read the Boxer Standard, I had put my own vision together, and I had been watching the boxers for quite a while. So I really loved them even before we had them. And they ended up just being the right dog for us here. So mentors, in the beginning, I really didn't have a particular mentor. I don't think there's just one. I think I watched some of the ones that had been around for a very long time, Jennifer Tellier, some of these breeders that had been around and been doing it forever. And I kind of liked the style. It seemed to match. I kind of watched what they did, but really when my first mentor happened when Michelle and I got together. And I can tell you, Michelle Yaden, Mephisto Boxers, she is a world of knowledge, and I would say she's probably been my mentor since we've gotten together.
Right. That's wonderful. Now, in terms of, you've been in the breed for the last 20 odd years. I'm saying specific to boxers. Do you have any? I'm sure a lot of people come up to you and ask you questions about the breed. Would you actually what would be the best way to get the most out of a mentor? If you are playing the role of a mentor yourself, how would you like the mentee or the person who's coming to you with questions to make the best use of you?
Oh, I think you've got to take the time to help people, but you also have to give them the tools to make decisions and guide them. Because certainly I learn every day. You're never done learning, for sure. I find it hard with the new people that are coming in. I find that you got to find someone that's willing to help and sit down and talk with you.
True.
Time, give them the time. Get them interested. Learn together.
True. Agree. I actually was on your website, your website, highdesertboxers.com, and
Yes.
And there was actually in one of your slides, I had actually saw this term called as a preservation breeder. You term yourself as a preservation breeder.
Absolutely.
What is the meaning of the term preservation breeder? And just for the benefit of those ones who have a question like me.
Well, for me, as I read the blueprint for the boxer, I try to stick as close to that vision, and that includes temperament, looks, because that's why my husband and I fell in love with the breed, is because of what they are. We don't want to change what they are, so we want to preserve what they are to begin with. We're not looking for the big win, kind of. I guess we are in a way, but we love the breed for what they are. So I don't want to go away from that. So we're trying to preserve what they have, what they are.
Right. Got it. Now you mentioned something about the blueprint in one of your earlier answers about when you started with a breed, you had a mental picture. What was that mental picture of a boxer, or was that picture totally different from what it is right now after being in the breed for 20 years? So has the blueprint changed a lot, or has it kind of stayed closer to what it was when you started with the breed?
Well, I think For me, I have tried to stick with what the breed is supposed to be, a nice short-backed, well-balanced dog with the beautiful boxer head with a soft expression, and for me that has not changed. And I love a smooth dog. And I've just always pictured it that way when I've read the standard, the overall boxer being a very square. We see a lot of longer boxers. We see a lot of differences, but I think this breed is very hard to breed. It's not a cookie cutter breed. It's just very hard.
True, agreed. Now, in terms of, again, this, my next question to you is about the different styles of boxers. There's only one type, but different styles.
Right.
Because it's all based on one standard, which different countries took and they made their own. And so that boxers started looking different in different countries. What is your take on the different styles of boxers, specifically the European style, English style, and the American style? Have you ever tried to blend or incorporate the benefits of these different styles into your breeding program?
Well, there is definitely a lot of different styles. Some of the countries for me are, they're too heavy, too heavy-headed, too heavy in the front, because they've just went a different direction. The American boxers seem to be getting a little taller and leggier. But my current female that I have, that we're going to hopefully start showing here again, she has some out of the country in her up close. I think there's a good to blending. I generally never see something I like in the first generation, but the second and third generation, I think, is when you get what you're looking for.
Right.
I personally prefer moderation. So.
Right. Have you actually, in your learning curve with boxers, of course, I know that you, being a horse person, and there's a lot of people who have successfully transitioned from horses onto boxers, onto dogs in general. There's a lot of research about the lines, about what is behind them, the research about the pedigrees and all that stuff. Horses have a pedigree as well, for people who didn't know. Well, I didn't know this till quite some time, quite a few weeks back. So in looking at these dogs, have you looked at other boxers in other countries to look at different styles? Or have you stayed close to the American style boxer?
Oh, I've stayed closer to the American style, but it's a preference for me. I tend to like, I tend to just like the style that we have here. But like I said, I do believe that we are lacking in some areas, and I think that some of the other styles can help us. I just don't think it happens in the first generation.
Fair, which is a very fair point. Now, I just want to move on to how you research your litters. I know that you produced the best in show winner from your very first litter, which actually means that you did something right in your research. I wanted to ask you something about that. How do you research your litters? When you decide to breed your bitch, how do you decide, in terms of which stud to use on her? And also, is inbreeding coefficient an important factor to be kept in mind while researching litters? So, in short, what is your formula for success?
Well, I can tell you that I actually start planning generally before my litter is actually born. I kind of have a plan ahead. I believe in breeding type to type. Whether it's an outcross or a line bred, I think there's a place for both. But I can tell you, sometimes it just takes me a few years to even decide on a stud dog. You know, know your faults, know what is good that you want to keep, and try to find a male that has generations of what you're looking for. And sometimes that will work and sometimes it won't. But and the coefficient, I think there's a place for both. I think we can get too close, but I also think that sometimes, you know, I guess I don't consider myself an old time breeder, but how do I want to say this? Sometimes you want to set your type, but you have to be very, very ready for the bad that's going to come with it. Boxers are not a real healthy breed. So if you're going to do a tight line bred litter and have a high coefficient, you really be prepared, because you may get a lot of health issues in there. And I like to outcross too, to give it. But like I said, I like to breed type to type. So whether it's outcross, line bred, yep. And I always have that picture of a smooth dog, a whole package. I go for a whole package.
Thank you for that. That's perfect. Now, you mentioned about the line breeding, inbreeding coefficient. You did also mention about outcrossing as well. You know, I think my next few questions are going to be about that topic of outcross.
Okay.
But more specifically, how, when you're breeding type to type with an outcross, is it still a luck of the draw, or in doing so, is your probability lowered because you are doing an outcross?
Oh, I don't think so. I think a well thought out outcross breeding can be great. Like I said, my rule of thumb is type to type. So breed the same type together. More than likely, you're going to get the type that you like. You know,
right?
Just you got to look at not just the dog that you're breeding to, but behind it. If the type is there, it'll generally be there for you.
Right. Now, in terms of, I actually want to go back to my previous question is about researching litters. Now, thankfully, with the internet, there's a wealth of knowledge, in terms of dogs from the past, maybe dating back even to the 60s or 50s or 60s. But the photograph, or the, what you see is a handler that is stacking the dog very cleverly. Can one make that decision based on just the pictures on the type?
I have to tell you that I have mostly bred. There's only been, I think, one dog that I haven't seen that I've bred to, but Michelle showed it, so she knew. Pictures can be very deceiving, and I think the best way to do it is being able to see the dog in person.
Right. Or a video of a dog would even suffice.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because they do, those handlers are so good.
True.
And
true.
It depends on the angle of the dog in the picture, and yeah.
Right. And again, what I was also wanting to ask you here is, do you actually speak to people about the different dogs that you have seen little of? I know you have a mentor in Michelle, but
yes.
For somebody, a newcomer, how would you suggest that they do the research about the different dogs if they just have access to the pictures and they've not seen the dog in live?
Talk to people that have actually seen the dog. Now, just remember that opinions vary. But if you've got a trusted mentor, they will tell you what is good, and what, if they think that if they've seen the dog, they can tell you what they like and what they don't like. And And if you've got a good mentor, they're going to let you know the pluses and the minuses of that dog and whether they think it's could possibly be a good breeding for what you have.
True, very true. Um, no, which is good. Again, always reach out and ask questions. I think that's the only way
Absolutely.
you're gonna learn, right? True, very true.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Lauri, my question to you is, you said you plan your breeding right from the moment you have a litter. So if you have a litter on the ground, you will actually say, okay, I'm going to keep something from this, but this is what I'm going to breed her to, and maybe a few generations down, maybe two, three generations you plan at that point. So my next question is actually about artificial insemination. And just to give this a context, India, the parent body of the Indian Kennel Club, the Kennel Club of India, they approved artificial insemination in May of this year, May of 2020.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah. So there is a lot of appetite for knowledge, and boxer breeders are looking at in India are looking to see how this can be incorporated into the breeding program. So my next question to you is about artificial insemination. So what are your thoughts about artificial insemination as a breed preservation tool? And when would you resort to artificial insemination?
What was the second part of that question? Sorry.
The second part of the question is when would you resort to artificial insemination? Is that as a last resort? Is that your, what is your thought process when it comes to using artificial insemination as a tool?
Well, you're talking to someone who's done mostly artificial inseminations. Because what I want and what I need and what I thought I needed or what I wanted was really too far away. I absolutely think it's a wonderful tool. I think that it's easier on the bitches not being shipped or, but I think I've really only done one natural breeding here, and that produced Romeo, actually. It's a wonderful tool. I think that I'm glad for India that they have approved that, because it is a good way to get good dogs into your breeding program.
Right. Now, in terms of in terms of artificial insemination, do you still actually, would you go for an artificial insemination in an outcross, or would you actually limit artificial insemination just from a line breeding perspective? What do you think is more advantageous?
I don't think either one's advantage. I just think that you've got to breed to the dog that you think is going to improve the areas that you need in your bitch. I've done outcross and line breeding with AI every time. I mean, it just depends on what you think your breeding program needs.
Right. Is there a lot more testing that you have to do to ensure that you have a successful litter when it comes to artificial insemination compared to natural breeding?
Well, you need a good repo vet for sure.
Right.
I actually drive 6 hours one way.
Okay.
And I've had 100% success. But of course it's very expensive. We do whatever that repo vet says we need to do. It's a lot of testing and it's very expensive. It's an expensive way to go, but if you think the dog is right, then you spend the money to do it. True. And you do it right. True. I've been very lucky and had a litter every time. So knock on wood. Now, and a good repo vet is fabulous.
True. That's gold. That's absolutely true. Now, I've always heard this term. I've heard about this in many years back. Fafa, Berry's tribute to Fafa was there was a breeding that was done, and the litter turned out to be, I think, all males, and there was no females in that litter. I don't know how far I might be getting my facts mixed up here, but when you actually are using a sire that is dead and gone, what is more valuable? Is it more valuable to get a female out of an artificial insemination using an old sire, the dog that is dead and gone, or is it males that are more precious? What would you think is more precious from the breed preservation perspective?
The bitch.
Okay.
I've had a lot of males lately, and I actually didn't have females to keep. And so I've got 2 bitches in my house right now that I actually didn't breed, but they're both, obviously one's a Romeo daughter and one is a Beckham granddaughter. Thanks to Michelle for sending them my way, but I didn't have any bitches. You can't carry on if you don't have the bitch.
True.
You can't really. I think the bitches are very important, probably more important than the male.
Right. All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Lauri. I actually want to move on into health testing. You mentioned in one of your answers that you are a strong proponent of health testing. Now, the American Boxer Club has a list of recommended health testing for ethical breeding or for a responsible breeder from a responsible breeding perspective. Now, some of the breeders feel that this extent of testing is excessive because some breedings are just markers. Some of the testings are only markers, and they're indicators of something which might come up in the future, but not necessarily so. Even if it's a marker, the dog might live up to a ripe old age of 10 or 15 or 10 or 12. I wish boxers live up to 15. We don't get that much too often. Do you think health testing is excessive?
Do I think the health testing is excessive?
Yeah.
No, but what I think you have to do is put it in perspective. This is not a healthy breed. You kind of have to, what I say is you kind of have to pick your poison. They're going to die of 3 things. They're going to die of heart, DM, or cancer. Cancer being number 1. So you have to put it in perspective here and make wise breeding decisions. That's kind of a tough one. I think we've got to do the testing. You take out the ones that aren't healthy at a young age, and you go with that for sure.
True.
Yeah.
True. But do you feel, by the time you finish all the testing, the bitch is already 2.5, 3 years old, and do you think it's do you think maybe we can actually scale back on the testing to just the most important ones, but if the bitch is clear, you can actually proceed with the breeding? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, you can only you could, if your bitch is clear at the time of breeding, that's the best you can do. But I do believe the yearly halters is very important. Generally, the SAS you can rule out. The DM, you never know if they're going to get. You hope they get old enough to get it if they're a risk. No, I think we've got to keep doing the health testing. But if your stuff is clear, you breed. I mean, it doesn't mean that they're not going to get it later.
True.
You just do the best you can. And I tell people who are looking for a puppy, if a breeder has been in it and had a few litters, and if they tell you they've never had a problem, I tell them to run, because it's not true. Right.
True. Well, I think the difficult part is done. The health testing is done, and you have a litter. Now comes
break it up a little.
Um, can you
Oh,
hear
there
me
you
now?
are.
Okay, perfect. Good. Now,
Yeah.
now making a transition, once you've had made the difficult decisions about or gone through the difficult process of health testing and stud dog selection and artificial insemination, and now you have a litter on the ground. Uh, what is you, or what is a breeder, or you, Laurie, looking for while selecting a boxer puppy with show potential? Now, are you looking for flashy markings? Are you looking for the temperament? Are you looking for the head type? Are you looking for conformation? What is it that you're looking for in picking up that puppy?
You're looking for it all.
Okay.
And you hope you have that standout puppy.
Hmm.
I'm
Right.
sorry, you're breaking up a touch, so I'm not quite getting the whole question. But honestly, flashy markings doesn't mean anything to me. I obviously have had quite a few flashy boxers, but I think the best is the best. I mean, head, temperament, color, if it's a plain, I think the plains are now getting a lot more attention and are winning more in the ring.
Hmm.
But you got to look for it all.
Right. Right. True. True. Uh, Now, there is also something called as fault judging, right? Like, for example, people always say, this dog has got this fault, this dog has got this fault. Now, that kind of a mindset might extend to a puppy as well. This puppy's got this fault, this puppy's got this particular fault. But what are your thoughts or preferences on preferences versus faults when evaluating puppies or dogs in general?
Well, you broke up a little, but I think
Okay,
I know what I think I know what you said.
but I'm gonna repeat my question again. Laurie, what are your
Okay.
thoughts on preferences versus faults when evaluating puppies or dogs
Okay.
in general?
Well, I prefer to go with preferences
Hmm.
because they all have a fault. But as an overall package, you'll never find a dog that doesn't have a fault. But we shouldn't fault judge. We should actually look at know what your faults are. But I'm going to look for preferences. Yeah.
Okay, all right, good. Uh, Now, I think it's more difficult to find what is good than what is, it's very easy to find what is bad because that's the first thing that people say. And
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
that's
That's the wrong way to go about it.
right, true, agree. Laurie, the next question is going to be a slightly difficult one. Let me forewarn you about this question. Um, Now, this is a question. Do you believe that breeders should always, um, hold back their best puppies with themselves or co-own them? Or another way of asking the same question is, why do breeders not sell their best dogs to a is there's a thought that breeders never sell their best dogs to somebody, they keep it with themselves. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I kind of think it depends on the person. I don't think there's any right or wrong. I personally tend to keep my best puppy. But if there's a fabulous home that I know is going to do right, I don't know that I wouldn't sell a puppy to the right home, a best puppy.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Romeo's barking.
Okay. Well, you can tell him that questions about him are coming. So you can tell him that his questions are coming soon. Yes, yes. So sorry. So you're actually saying about parting with your best puppies, right? So you what is your selection process in parting with your best puppies?
The selection process. I'm going to go outside because I have a noisy crew here.
Okay.
Stop. All right. Sorry about that. My husband came home and it was getting a little noisy.
Okay.
So the selection process, is that what you asked?
Yes, that's right. So how do you select the best home for your dogs?
You're breaking up.
Okay, I'm gonna actually repeat myself. So, what is the best? How do you select your prospective show homes? What is your selection process? What are you looking for?
Oh,
What are you looking for in somebody, in making that decision that this is going to be the forever home for your puppy?
we might have to restart this. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
So do you believe that breeders always...
I'm sorry, guys. We're just waiting for Lauri to join us. She should momentarily be joining us, as you can tell. So please bear with me, and I think she's back online. There she is. Hey, Lauri. Lauri, can you hear me all right?
Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. And so are a lot of viewers. Yes. So my question to you was, what is the process? How difficult or easy it is for you to select the prospective show home for your dogs? Is it an extremely difficult decision? Is it a gut feel? Is it an elaborate process? Is it an easy process? What are some of the things that you look at in finding the right home for your dogs?
Well, for one, you got to trust the people that they're going to do the right thing. For me, it's more about the best home for the dog. They're show dogs for a very short time. So they have to be just a great home. They're not a thing. They're a dog that they're a family pet. That's generally kind of why I keep my show dogs, my best ones, for myself, because I know they're going to be treated as pets even afterwards.
Right.
They're on my couches. Here's Romeo's home. He runs our house. Okay. I love my pet homes because they treat them well. So the show world is very small. So unless you've got someone that's coming in that's wanting to learn, and you just hope that it all works out well.
Right. True. Well, very, very truly said. It's the forever home that's more important than a show home, right? Because that's what you would like.
To me.
Right. True. Exactly. Lauri, my next question to you is actually about, it's not about when you're going to show Romeo. Maybe people would love to see Romeo maybe later in the interview. If we can get a candid shot of him. Yeah. My question is about the popular sire syndrome, popular sire syndrome, which is, again, going to the dog that's winning, the top winner. What are your thoughts about breeding to a dog just because he's a top winner? Now, many people make that decision, hoping that they will that's the perfect recipe to produce the next best thing. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think the problem with that is it might not be what you need. You have to be. The problem is we see these dogs, and that you don't know of that beautiful dog that's in the backyard that's never been shown, but he might have the right thing for you. I think that we can get into trouble by breeding to the popular dog, but I also think the popular dog can be very right for the bitch that you have. So again, it's one of those things.
Right.
Yeah.
True. Now, moving on to Romeo, which is and who is actually is a top winning dog, a boxer in Canada. Did you expect something special when you planned Romeo's litter?
No. I mean, yeah, we all hope for the special. We hope for something special, and this was a very close close breeding. I asked Michelle what she thought about breeding half brother, half sister, but the bitch was an outcross. Lola was a fabulous mover. Beckham's a beautiful dog. We had bred to Lola's father to get Lola because we wanted to add more front. She was beautiful, a fabulous, beautiful bitch. I planned on keeping a girl, and I put Romeo on the table, and I said to my friend, I said, now that's a game changer. There's just something about this dog. I called Michelle because we had show homes kind of want him. I called Michelle and said, I think we better keep Romeo for a bit. There's just something about him. He's not perfect, but there's something about him. I just can't put my finger on it. So that's where he came up with his name, Game Changer, because I had no intention of keeping a boy.
Right.
But he just had a beam of light on him every time we did anything with him. He had a presence.
Right. So, talk to us or give us more about what was special in him. When he was, what made him stand apart from his litter mates. What was that special quality in him?
Well, not only was he a pretty dog, but he had a presence. You couldn't take your eyes off of him. He was smooth. He demanded your attention. He was funny. He just, the way he presented himself, the way he held himself, he was never offbeat. It was just always there.
Right. He couldn't actually, he didn't even make a misstep. He had the brains, he had the mind in the right place. He displayed the right temperament.
Yes,
right.
I always told my friends that I really didn't want to keep a dog that I couldn't finish the ring myself. And honestly, I'm not a great handler, so it has to be pretty good for me to be able to finish a dog,
right,
in the ring. So he just always put his feet pretty much right, and he presented himself well.
Right. I think people know, people who have been following your dogs know that you had Beckham. That was before Romeo. Beckham is Romeo's sire.
Yes.
Now, I also know that you've judged sweepstakes in both Danes and boxers. You're a sweepstakes judge. Now, if this is a hypothetical question coming your way, Lauri. Beckham versus Romeo. If you were the sweepstakes judge, or if you're the judge, and if both of them are competing against each other, which one would you put up?
Probably Beckham.
Okay.
I think he was he was actually an overall better dog.
Okay. All right. Could you give us more about Beckham? How did Beckham come about?
Well, Beckham was out of my best in show bitch, my first litter that I bred. And we bred her to the famous Spirit. And we had 4 boys in that litter, me and my boys. And Beckham was another one that I couldn't, he was just smooth from the beginning. And I put him on the table, and his feet were always in the right place. His top line was always beautiful. His eyes were very pleasing. Very important to me. I do love a very soft expression. I love that. And he had all that. It was the litter was nice, but Beckham again stood out to me from day one.
Right. Now, they always say there's something special in a dog, for the dog to actually when there's a dog, something about the dog, the attitude of the dog, the temperament, their personality, that actually makes them stand out in the ring. That little bit extra is what actually gains the attention of the judge.
Yes.
So my question to you is actually about the mindset of a dog. Now, could you share any tips on keeping the dog in the right mindset, or how important it is to keep the dog in the right mindset for success in the ring? How do you do that?
Well, I think for one, I think boxers are very smart, and if they're bored, they're kind of done. Now, if I think you got to keep them happy and you got to keep them playing, and I do train my dogs, but I make it a game. And if you'll notice, like Diego, their dogs are always happy. They're not forcing them to do anything. They're molding them. And I think that's very important. Some dogs can go for a long time in the show ring, and some dogs don't. So it just, they get bored with it. Romeo, he would go out today just like he did in the beginning. He absolutely loves it. Some dogs just don't like it.
Right. And I think the dogs that don't like the ring, of course, they don't, it's better to not continue to show them. But it's also not to take away. It's also not to take away the part of the handler. You mentioned that you handle dogs, and I know Michelle has been an important part of the success that you had in the show ring. Could you talk about Michelle and Beckham and Michelle and Romeo? How is that bond? How did that? Your dogs are house dogs, but they are also show dogs as well. How do you maintain that balance?
Well, I don't know. My dogs, I don't find that it's hard to have a house pet that makes a great show dog. Both Romeo and Beckham had the attitude. There's a very, very special bond between Romeo and Michelle, and it was almost kind of weird because he didn't meet her really in the show ring until he was 7 months old. And there was just a click. In fact, I'm fairly certain that he would rather be with Michelle than here. He loved her. It was just, I don't know what. He loved her from the beginning. And they just clicked. They were a dream team, to be honest.
Right.
But Michelle is fabulous, and all the dogs love her. But there was something very special about her and Romeo. Even when she'd only showed him a few times, and he was still living with me, and I would take him to the showgrounds. As soon as he's seen someone that he thought was her, he would start the jumping up and down and the bouncing and looking for her in all the setups. And he very special bond. Right.
So what is in store for Romeo? Is he retired, or is he still being shown? Is he now with his jumping prowess? Is he going to be doing agility anytime soon?
No, he's just hanging out. He's just hanging out, being a pet, and he's a great house pet. He's retired. Obviously, we retired him in December of last year. Really, there's not really any more that we can do with him in the show ring. He's broke the records. He's done more than I ever dreamed. So he's just at home being a pet.
All right.
And I don't live close to anything where there's agility. So
you never know.
We don't have those opportunities.
Right. Now, in terms of, you are a groomer, as in you are a professional groomer as well. Do you have any tips for our viewers on how you keep that dog in that perfect coat condition because your dogs travel a lot to shows, but they're always in the perfect condition. As an owner, as an owner breeder, do you have any tips to share with the viewers on how to keep the dog in the perfect coat condition?
Well, weekly baths, lots of moisturizing. I think Diego has the right, because he moisturizes daily. I think you got to do that with these dogs to keep their coats. And of course, you have to give them, you got to start from the inside. They have to have a good food that fits them also.
Right. So on the topic of food, are you a proponent of the raw diet or kibble diet? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, Romeo was actually raw fed till he was probably a couple years old. He's the only one we've ever raw fed, but he, at first, kibble wasn't real agreeable to him. And so I switched him over to raw. And he did great. I just think it depends on the dog. I think you just got to fit the dog.
Right.
And he's doing great on the kibble. And he was on kibble, I think, for the last year and a half that he was on the road with Michelle. So.
Right. Now, I have, I know I could hear Romeo and, I could hear him barking. Could you actually share? Could you actually share Romeo for the viewers? Maybe if you could.
Let me go get him.
And maybe if you're lucky, we could see him jump.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know if you can see him. There he goes. Yeah, he's in the kitchen now. Romy.
Okay. All right. That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Lauri. Again, before we end the interview, I know again, thank you so much. We are almost close at time. I do want to thank my team that's working in the background. These kind of interviews would not be possible without coordinations happening in the background. My team comprises of Kadir. It comprises of Jaisima, Sushant, and Satish. Lauri, do you have any parting comments before we end the interview?
No, I really appreciate you guys inviting me. I have had a lot of fun, and I think that what you're doing is a very, very wonderful thing for India. I hope that it's very successful. And just remember that we are all learning, no matter what. So, yeah. Are you there? Hello?
I'm sorry. We had a technical glitch there, Lauri. Sorry. Any parting comments, Lauri, about before we end the interview?
No, I think that I thank you very much for inviting me to be a part of this.
Okay. All right. Wonderful, Lauri. I thank you again for your time. Again, for viewers that are tuned in, please look forward to more of Romeo's success, not in the ring, but in the breeding arena. So Romeo is actually busy in the breeding arena, so look forward to more of his progenies. Thank you, Lauri, so much for your time. Have yourself a wonderful day and stay safe.
Thank you. Bye now.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.